Shearing isn't just for sheep. What? That's a different thing? Oops. Hello, I'm Allie, literary sewist. Here in my crafting castle, I normally create projects inspired by the books I read. After stumbling upon this gorgeous fabric, I knew I wanted it to be the Cinch-It Up Dress from Charm Patterns. Because shearing was involved, not the kind where you shave a sheep, the kind where you gather fabric with elastic thread, I thought I would show you this technique so you can add it to your skill set. So come with me, it's a lot easier than it looks. Elastic thread. You can buy it anywhere a variety of thread is sold. It's a little bit thicker than regular thread and it's very bouncy, so be careful when unwinding it. You will put elastic thread on the bobbin and it will end up on the wrong side of the fabric. 99% of the time you will want to hand wind your bobbin. I know, it's not a fun process, but it's worth it in the end. Now I say 1% of the time you won't, and this is going to depend on your machine. Mine is very cranky, opinionated machine and refused hand winding, so I do have to use the machine because it can pull the elastic more than you want it to. Be sure to only wind what you think you'll use. You won't want to leave it on the bobbin to use at a later date because it will be too loose. I'll keep my fingers crossed that your machine is less cranky than mine. The bobbin and upper thread will be threaded like normal. 100% polyester thread is preferred on top because it's a tad stronger than 100% cotton or blends. You will primarily use a straight stitch. You can also use a zigzag. Start with a length slightly longer than normal. If your machine allows it, set your needle to end in the down position. Set your tension as you would for a normal straight stitch. This is something that can really vary based on the machine. While mine doesn't like hand-wound bobbins, it will do just fine with normal tension and just a smidge longer stitches, so you'll want to play around with these settings before getting started on your project. Especially when you're first starting, use your favorite removable marking tool to draw the guidelines for your shearing stitches. Make sure they're evenly spaced. There are a couple different methods. The first is one line at a time. Start by backstitching at the very first line. Continue sewing straight until you get to the end of the line, then backstitch to end the row. You will do this for each row, starting again on the same side of the fabric, working one row at a time. The more rows you have, the more you will see the gathering. The second method is pivoting. You will still backstitch to start, then sew straight until you get to the end of the row. At the end, leave your needle down, pivot 90 degrees, then sew straight down to the next row and pivot again. Continue sewing straight. Make sure when you get to the ends you are inside of the seam allowance. When you sew your seams, this will lock the rows in place. Make sure to backstitch at the very end. Sewing one line at a time will use slightly more thread, but it really is straightforward and less overwhelming when you're first learning. Pivoting does give you fewer threads to cut and will be a bit faster overall. However, you may also run out of bobbin thread frequently, so you will need to start again with a quick backstitch. Method 3 is shearing in the round. Shearing in the round is usually done on sleeves or when you're going all the way around your garment. You will start with the backstitch and sew in a straight line. I rarely use guidelines for this because it's a little easier to use the guidelines on my machine and using the last row of stitches. As you approach the starting stitches, you will gradually angle the stitches so you'll end up just above the starting ones. Once you've gone around one time, you can use the previous row of stitches as your guide, so the angle up is always the same. Don't forget to backstitch when you get to the final row. This is how it will look when you're done. When placing the bobbin into the case, loosely release it or you'll risk having the bobbin completely unwind. It will a little, but that's okay. Just go slow with the finger on top while you load it. Make sure the thread you're using on top is complementary to your garment because it will be front and center. The use of a walking foot can help get those gathers just right. It isn't necessary, but it certainly does make it a little easier. Play with your stitch length. A good rule of thumb, longer stitches will gather more while shorter stitches will gather less. No matter which method you use, always apply steam to the elastic thread. Apply from the top side of your fabric on the appropriate setting. This will gather everything nice and tight and reset the elasticity. Remember that this technique does take a little bit of getting used to, and you should always test it on a piece of scrap before you actually finish your garment. You want to make sure you've got that exact tension and exact look that you're going for. Each machine responds differently and each sewist is unique, so just check it out, have a little patience, and just go with it. And once you get the hang of it, you're probably going to want to shear everything. Let me know if I was able to give you the confidence to try shearing fabric by giving this video a thumbs up. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. I'd be more than happy to help you out, or you can always send me an email. Now, head on over here for more sewing techniques and tutorials to add to your skill set. We'll see you in the next one.